Great Scott. Hey, what's up, guys? It's your bro, Richie Rich here. Tonight in this video, you're probably wondering, why I said Great Scott. Like, in the way, Great Scott. I'll tell you. Tonight in this video, I'm back with another car explanation video for y'all. And this time, I'm gonna take a bit of a break from doing, like, performance, like, little sponsorships and all that. And just do some movie cars, and I got a few on the list. So for all you time traveling fans out there who are watching this video, tonight I'll be talking to you about the cars from the Back to the Future franchise. Yep. So from the Back to the Future franchise, starting off with the most iconic one, the legendary DeLorean Time Machine, which is a 1981 DeLorean 1981 DeLorean. It's a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12, A.K.A. the Time Machine. So before I start, make sure you all like the video, subscribe, comment below what y'all think, hit the notification bell and hit all so you'll make pre-uploads. So the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna be doing it for all three films. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so the DeLorean Time Machine was Dr. Emmett Brown's most successful invention, played by Christopher Lloyd. A plutonium-powered time machine built on a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12 sports car that had to reach 88 miles an hour in order to time travel. In reality, it would do like 85 roughly. Like, not even 100, I don't know. It was built between 1955 to 1985. So, a 30-year difference there. Creator was Dr. Emmett L. Brown. Not sure what the L represents. I think it's Lloyd. Lathrop. L-A-T-H At first I thought it was Lloyd, but it was Lathrop. Yeah, I can't really pronounce that correctly. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So the DeLorean Time Machine was Dr. Emmett Brown's, played by Christopher Lloyd, most successful invention. A plutonium-powered, later Mr. Fusion-powered, time machine built on a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12 sports car that had to reach 88 miles an hour in order to time travel. It was built between 1955 to 1985. Creator was Dr. Emmett L. Brown. Dr. Emmett Lathrop Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. Power source was a plutonium nuclear reactor, later changed to Mr. Fusion after a trip to 2015. Its fate was destroyed by a diesel locomotive on October 27th, 1985. The note says it was active. It was a temporal duplicate, non-canon. Not sure what that last part means, but oh well. Anyways, the DeLorean Time Machine's Doc's most successful invention, a plutonium-powered time machine built on a 1981 DeLorean DMC-12 sports car that had to reach 88 miles an hour in order to time travel. On November 5th, 1955, Doc's standing on the edge of his toilet while hanging a clock in his bathroom. The porcelain was wet, making Doc slip, fall, and hit his head on a sink. When Doc came to, he had a vision of the flux capacitor in his head and drew a crude schematic diagram as well as scrawling some hurried calculations. The capacitors the capacitors both constructed afterwards and completed in 1985. The actual construction of the components for the finished DeLorean took Doc 30 years, and most of his family fortune to complete. Next up, history. So, Doc purchased the DeLorean DMC-12 from a seller named Robert, who had advertised it in the classifieds section of the August 11th, 1984 issue of the Hill Valley Telegraph. It was a year before the first Back to the Future movie was even released. So, the issue of the Hill Valley Telegraph. Another source claims that Doc bought a used 1981 DeLorean from Rudy Russo for $13,000 at New Deal Used Cars, Valley Road on February 3rd. So New Deal Used Cars, Valley Road on February 3rd, 11 days before Valentine's Day, 1984. This car may have been the second time machine kept in Doc's secret lab. So this may have been Doc's secret time machine kept in. This may have been the second DeLorean time machine kept in Doc's secret lab after the destruction of the original, which made its fate in the 1990 version of Back to the Future 3. When Marty gets back to October 27th, 1985, he managed to get out the time machine until a train just destroyed it. So the machine kept in Doc's secret lab after the destruction of the original. Alright, now we got the first test. So Doc revealed his creation to his friend Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox. So Dr. Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, revealed his creation to his friend, played by Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, at Twin Pines Mall, which soon turned into Lone Pines Mall, in the early morning of October 26, 1985, 1:18 a.m., and for its first test. Doc sent his dog Einstein. Doc sent his dog Einstein. So Doc sent his dog Einstein 1 minute into the future, with Marty recording on a video camera. Doc first used a sophisticated remote controller to send the car to the far end of the parking lot with the car's brakes applied. He revved up the motor to 65 miles an hour. He released the brakes, sending the car hurtling towards both Doc and Marty, gaining speed. A bright glow developed at the front of the car and then engulfed the car. The coils lit up, internal circuits glowed, and the flux capacitor fired rapidly. Suddenly, the car seemed to explode just before it hit Doc and Marty. Fire trails then scorched the pavement where the car would have passed through, completing the temporal displacement sequence. 1:20 a.m. and 0 seconds. Looking over his instruments, Doc suddenly let loose with a scream of triumph, overjoyed that the reaction took place at exactly 88 miles an hour. For Einstein, the trip was instantaneous. But to both Marty and Doc, they had to wait exactly 1 minute to catch up to Einstein in a timeline. To catch up to Einstein in a timeline. In the meantime, Marty asked why a DeLorean was used. Doc explained that it needed some style and implying. So Marty asked why a DeLorean was used. So Marty asked why a DeLorean was used. Doc explained that it needed some style and implied that the stainless steel construction of the car helped it in temporal displacement. But Doc didn't fully explain why, because the watch he was wearing at the time beeped, warning him that the DeLorean's return was only seconds away. Doc quickly grabbed Marty, hauling him aside. The car suddenly appeared where Doc and Marty were standing and screeched to a halt as a frozen shell. Super cooled from traveling through time. The going door was troublesome for Doc to open while using his hands. Inside the car, he opened it with his foot. Inside the car, Einstein was unharmed. Much to the surprise of Marty, Doc then showed Marty the interior and its controls. While inputting dates on the keypad, Doc used July 4th, 1776, the date the American Declaration of Independence was signed, and December 25th, 0000, the date of the birth of Christ, as examples. Before inputting a red letter date in History of Science, November 5th, 1955. From there, he left the interior of the DeLorean and reminisced about the past, particularly about Old Man Peabody owning the land that is now Twin Pines Mall and his pine tree farm. Marty asked if the car ran on normal gasoline, to which Doc replied that the car required a more powerful fuel, plutonium. The car's components were electrically based, but a nuclear reaction was needed to generate 1.21 gigawatts of electricity to send 1.21 gigawatts of electricity to send the car through time. Marty was stunned that the DeLorean had come in possession of the dangerous substance and asked how he was able to acquire it. Taking a cautious tone, Doc explained that he'd made a deal with a group of Libyan nationals, which are terrorists, who demanded he build them a bomb. Doc cheated them, giving them a shoddy bomb casing filled with used pinball machine parts. Oh my god. Every time I hear him say that, it just cracks me up. A shoddy bomb casing filled with used pinball machine parts. Oh my god, Lord. Unbelievable. Anyway, so giving Marty a spare radiation suit, Marty continued to film as Doc inserted another pellet of plutonium into the car's miniature nuclear reactor, which is where fuel would really go. Next part for that one is trapped in 1955. Soon after a new pellet of plutonium's inserted into the DeLorean time machine, the Libyan terrorists suddenly appeared in a Volkswagen station wagon and shot Doc dead. But in reality, he had a bulletproof vest. Turns out it was a VW bus. It was not even a station wagon. I suppose this was from the 60s to 80s, I think this was. I'm not too sure. Appeared in a Volkswagen station wagon. It's more of a VW bus. And shot Doc dead, even though he had a bulletproof vest. But that wasn't until Marty got back, and it turned into Lone Pines Mall. When he got back to October 26, 1985, and shot Doc dead, Marty ran into the DeLorean to try to escape the Libyans. Marty accidentally turned the time circuits on. So Marty accidentally turned the time circuits still set to 1955, still set to 1955, on while shifting, and as he avoided being destroyed by a rocket-propelled grenade, well RPG, he reached 88 miles an hour and entered temporal displacement. Suddenly, Marty went from a mall parking lot in 1985 to a field in 1955, and the DeLorean crashed into both a scarecrow and then the Peabody's farm. For a moment, Marty stunned, and the Peabody family ran from their house to the barn to investigate, believing that the cars from another world. They screamed in horror as Marty lifted the going door and stepped out, dressed in a radiation suit. When they had a look, he said, "Looks like an airplane without wings." Believing that the cars from another world, they screamed in horror as Marty lifted the going door and stepped out, dressed in a radiation suit. Marty's almost shot from the buckshot of Otis Peabody's shotgun. Who was he played by? Otis Peabody. Played by Will Hare. His last name was spelled Hare. Born March 30th, 1919, unfortunately passed away August 31st, 1997, 7 years after the final Back to the Future film was even released. But in the Back to the Future movie, he was aged 36 in 1955. 30 years later, 66, and then he passed away in the movie in 2015, around 96. I think it was before or after. I don't know. Somewhere around there, around 95, 96. Anyways, where was I? So Marty's almost so. For a moment, Marty stunned, and the Peabody family ran from their house to the barn to investigate, believing that the cars from another world. They screamed in horror as Marty lifted the going door and stepped out, dressed in a radiation suit. Marty was almost shot from the buckshot of Otis Peabody's shotgun and ran back to the safety of the time machine, floored the gas, and smashed through the doors of the barn. After escaping from Peabody's shotgun, the car ran over one of the two pines. The quote was funny where it says, "My pine, why you space bastard, you killed a pine." It was funny. Literally, I just couldn't stop laughing when he just said that. It was just insane. But yeah, anyways, where is that? So after escaping from Peabody's shotgun, the car ran over one of the two pines that Peabody had been growing. This was the first effect of Marty's trip into the past. That would alter the future. The Twin Pines Mall would turn into the Lone Pines Mall. Racing down the highway, Marty babbled about how the whole experience was a nightmare. Looking to his right, he screamed to a halt in front of the future site of Lyon Estates, which would be his home like 30 years later. From 1955 to 1985, at that time would have been like legit completed. Racing down a highway, Marty babbled about how the whole experience was a nightmare. Looking to his right, he screamed to a halt in front of the future site of Lyon Estates, I can't really pronounce it correctly, he immediately stopped and viewed the undeveloped land that would be his family's future home, stretched far out into the distance. A meter in the DeLorean indicated that it was out of plutonium and the car just shut down. Marty failed to get it running again. Marty failed to get it running again and decided to hide the DeLorean behind the Leon Estates sign, covered by a few shrubs, and walked the 2 miles to town. So after all the electric just shut down, time circuits, flux capacitor, and all that. So Marty failed to get it started again, and decided to hide the DeLorean time machine behind the Leon Estates sign, covered by a few shrubs, and walked the 2 miles to town. After convincing the 1955 version of Doc that he's intended from the future, Marty and Doc went back to the site to recover the time machine. Doc opened the door and turned on the flux capacitor. Was it Marty? I can't remember. Marty was closer, so I believe it must have been him. I'm not 100% too sure. We didn't really see who turned it on, but well. So so Doc opened the door and turned on a flux capacitor, which he had envisioned after his fall earlier that day. The DeLorean. Well, he was surprised when he see the flux capacitor work. The DeLorean's driven back to Doc's garage, where it's hidden under a tarpaulin cover until the night of the thunderstorm, November 12th. On the 12th, Doc brought the time machine to Courthouse Square in downtown. So on the 12th, Doc brought the time machine to Courthouse Square in downtown Hill Valley, and started working on the cable assembly that would harness the impending lightning strike. Arriving late, Marty's briefed by Doc just as the storm moved in and took down a tree. Marty drove the DeLorean to the starting line at the Bluebird Motel and inserted a tall connecting hook into the flux capacitor. He then waited for the alarm to go off while Doc reconnected the cable and decided to reset the controls to arrive. The note says 11 minutes. So it arrived 11 minutes, even though Marty says 10 minutes, so around there, but still early enough. So reset the controls to arrive 11 minutes earlier than 11 minutes earlier than scheduled. With that, the engine suddenly died, and left Marty trying to restart it. Marty finally, and unexpectedly, succeeded in restarting the engine motor after headbutting the horn in frustration, and took off. The DeLorean reached the cable just as the lightning struck, and Doc made the connection, sending the time machine back to 1985, but leaving the lightning hook behind, hanging from the cable. In 1985, Red the Bum, who was actually a street bum who resided in downtown Hill Valley in 1985. Played by George Buck Flower. Born October 28th, 1937, in Milton, Freewater, Oregon. Born October 28th, 1937. Passed away June 18th, 2004. It was a year before I was born. So he passed away June 18th, 2004. It was a year after the second Fast and Furious movie was released. which I actually did not know about. I did not know about that. So in nine, sorry in 19, sorry in 1980, sorry in 1985, so in 1985, Red the Bum was awakened by the sonic boom of the DeLorean when he's a crazy drunk driver. No, that was kind of a cool quote. I'll give it that. So it was awakened by the sonic boom of the DeLorean, followed by the sound of a crash at the town theater. Interesting. In 1985, Red the Bum, played by George Buck Flower, may rest in peace. So yeah, so in 1985, Red the Bum was awakened by the sonic boom of the DeLorean, followed by the sound of a crash at the town theater. Marty jumped out of the icy time machine to check out um, downtown, and to verify that he had gotten back to the future, and began to his normal year back to normal of 1985. Returning to the car to save Doc, Marty tried to drive off, and the motor died. The motor died once again. This time, this was the last time in the trilogy that it had done so. The Libyans passed him on the street, and Marty ran back to the mall. There he saw the first DeLorean. There he saw the first DeLorean make the jump to 1955, with a terrorist's van crashing into a phone booth. Not phone booth, photo booth. Sorry. Yeah, it's easy to get confused. I haven't been seeing this for quite a long time actually. I used to see the third one, because I'm a big fan of the Wild West. Oh God. Um. So there. This was the last time in the trilogy This was the last time in the trilogy that I had done so. The Libyans passed him on the street, and Marty ran back to the mall. There he saw the first DeLorean make the jump to 1955, with the terrorist's van crashing into a photo booth. Um, Originally believing he was too late, Marty was in grief, then surprise. Marty was in grief, then surprise. Uh, Doc recovered and revealed that he was wearing a bulletproof vest, having read the warning letter that Marty had written 30 years earlier back in 1955. Doc returned to downtown to start the Doc returned Doc returned to downtown to start the DeLorean. Doc returned to downtown to start the DeLorean up, and drove Marty back to his home in Leon Estates. Doc told Marty. So Doc told Marty he would go roughly 30 years into the future. A nice round number. Doc backed the DeLorean up with enough room to reach 88 miles an hour on the street and vanished in three sonic booms. While in the future, Doc decided to give the DeLorean a now standard hover conversion, which was done in the early 21st century. To avoid this, he traveled back to 1938 and bought several copies of Action Comics #1. He sold them for $2.5 million. $2.5 million in 2015, and flew off in the newly converted DeLorean. At some point, he discovered that Marty's children were destined to actually go to jail, which would eventually destroy the McFly family. Okay, so for the next part, we'll be about to the future, and this is linked to the second installment of Back to the Future, which will be Back to the Future Part 2, 1989, which came out 4 years after the first movie. Okay, I'll be back. So if you like this part, subscribe, comment below what y'all think. Hit the notification bell and tell all Sailor radio uploads. So that'll be it. I'll see you guys in a bit for the next video. Till then, stay safe, have a great evening, have a great day tomorrow morning, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So take care, folks. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.